Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is Chong Jen Wen. You can call me Joey. So, for this presentation, I will be discussing about cultural competence or cultural sensitivity training, whether there are enough evidence to support the fact that these trainings could reduce racism and prejudice. So, there are three objectives for this presentation. The first one is cultural awareness for health professionals. Second one is approaches and limitations of cultural awareness training. And lastly, why a simple training for cultural sensitivity is simply not enough. All of these are based on the US Cultural Sensitivity Program. So, the first one, backstory. Educators of health professionals, they can no longer be ignorant of discussion about culture, race, and racism because the students themselves are demanding open dialogues about race. But the faculties are they refuses to talk against or even off the topic racism. So hence the students, they shared their perceptions on why faculties have been silent at the event of White Coat for Black Lives. A lot of the faculties, they say they are not interested, they don't think that is their problem or issues, and they feel too vulnerable to talk about such sensitive topic. But what do these students, they think about the refusal of open dialogues? So one of the students came out. She said that the possibility of clinical practices being influenced in a way that they may be providing health inequities will be high if you refuse to have open dialogues, because these students, they just want to learn. They want to learn about topics like this, events like this. And so the faculty said that you have good wills and good intentions, but it is not enough. You need to have the skill in order for you to be able to have open dialogues or even address conflicts, because without the skill, you cannot guarantee the safety of yourself and even of others when you're having conversations or discussions like this. To confront about race, power, privileges, and identity is a very serious confrontation, and without the safety, this is why riots happen. You will never know what could trigger the other person. So, why I say it is insufficient, because from this evidence, the faculties themselves, they refuses to have to have training. They refuses to have open dialogues with their students. They just simply don't want it because they feel scared. They don't know how to talk about race, and they worry that they might get defensive. And all of these trainings are usually just surface level information, which is not enough to put into practice. So moving on to the next source. Another backstory, the cultural awareness was actually the first structured program of cultural studies in the US since 1960s. All of these trainings are essential for professionals, students, and volunteers. And these trainings are usually a part of university course curricula. And as of now, there are even more branched out subtopics from cultural awareness, and even like unprecedented trainings from their own perceptions, ideals, and beliefs of cultural awareness. So, what are the limitations of the cultural awareness training? They say that all of these efforts are well intentioned, but most critics states that there is simply not enough evidence nor research to even proceed with these workshops, because workshops are usually superficial, they're essentialized, they're infantilizing, because workshops, they rarely have enough time to absorb meaningful information that can be implemented into practice. Most of the time spent in the workshop, attendees usually spend it on icebreaker games, and other time they use it to trade in cultural stereotypes and surface level information, and that's what they actually talk about. Usually all of these workshops, right, they are usually focus on certain minorities group, or even just one minority group. So to to characterize the whole minority group that exists in this world through um to one through one training alone is not enough. Lastly, another backstory: members of STFM, they gathered a multiracial team to host a curriculum for educators on racism. There are over 125 participants that attended the workshop, and the participants are given 3-minute video that includes reactions such as dismay, anger, fear, and shame. So how did this all work out? The result of change in attitude and knowledge from the workshops were significant to what STFM had in mind after providing the training that were essential to the educators. So, but despite the efforts to teaching about racism and unconscious processes, significant racial and ethnic disparities still exist. So, due to the underestimating number of participants, remember there were over 125 participants, but they only had 80 papers copies of this survey, and 72 were completed. So all of this result in change of attitude and knowledge were based on the 72 that were completed. So they were really generalized. And the lack of control group is just insignificant to the result. So hence these strategies that were given, they proved to be insufficient to reach health equity. And also all of these trainings, right, they're held by facilitators who are presenters and also authors. All of this survey may introduce bias as well, so you cannot say that it is the right training that can reduce racism or prejudice. So what are the evaluation? The first source, the pros are they addressed how health professional faculties and students feel about having open dialogue and racism. They recommended on how to enhance the discussions among faculties and students to reach health equities and also safety of patients and providers. But having open dialogue about the issue but not convincing to have a workshop for faculty members, the students can't learn, the faculties will never be able to learn as well. So source 2, they gave detailed facts about cultural awareness training, and they actually carefully picked out important facts from proper sources. Lastly, attempted workshops that showed slight improvement with result table provided was a huge help. And also they gave really unbiased explanation to the result given. They were very transparent. I like that. And lastly, the bad part of it is they provided very few explanations on the workshop, but with the result that is good enough. So in conclusion, cultural awareness workshops and derivatives are well intentioned. Why I mentioned? Because they are to improve cultural awareness interaction in healthcare environment. However, most of these intercessions are enacted with little to no evidence of research or studies. So workshop motions are often overgeneralized due to the limited time they have. So in the end, cultural awareness workshop or programs should be pensioned until there is adequate research done for the fundamentals, let alone the value of it. So in conclusion, all these cultural awareness workshops are simply not enough to be able to say that it will reduce racism or prejudice. So we need to have more research and evidence. We need to learn more in order to even host to host events and workshops in order to spread cultural awareness. Thank you very much.